is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, and on Zoom, we are here with Herma and Big Daddy Ray of Sick and Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here today. It's great to have you all here.
Oh,
All
thank
right,
you.
thanks for having us.
Absolutely. I gotta say, you guys are the greenest band since Typo Negative. I love it.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah. It's so it's so awesome to have you here. I got to tell you, I was just listening to the new album Starstruck. Absolutely epic album. I want to know like what the thought process was going into the making of this album because I see so many different types of music and so many different sources of inspiration. What was the sort of idea going into the making of Starstruck?
I think he's the one who can answer.
Well, actually, um, the album was born during the pandemic, and organically it just gave us a darker sound because of everything that was going on in the world. I believe we had an idea to go a little bit more aggressive than the previous two records. But then with the pandemic, and we were all cooped up in the studio, and it just came naturally to start writing like that. Then each one of us has different influences, and they just the stuff just came pouring in. But the idea was also to try and surprise the listener with each song and try to stir each song different directions, even during the song itself.
So it's fair to say, for people who haven't heard the whole album yet, songs like "Drop It to the B" and "This Is Not the End." That's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more to be discovered when this album does come out in July.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes, yes, definitely.
Yep.
And song is very different from the other, and very different from what we did before too, I think.
Yeah, because I wanted to know actually, like, how would this be different from albums such as Element of Sex or Hell Over Hell, etc.? Was this at all like continuing in a similar vein in a way, or was this meant to kind of be like a new start for Sick and Beautiful?
I think it wasn't meant to be like that, but in fact, it became like that. You know.
We also changed the lineup by recording the album. So we had this new guitar player that added so much to the album because it's a shredder. We always wanted for something like that.
Yeah, I've noticed that like with the sound of Sick and Beautiful, it has like an old school rock vibe behind it. I've noticed a lot more guitar soloing incorporated in there as well. So I see classic rock with the sort of like shock rock industrial elements as well. But bringing in a new guitar player that has solos, did that add to what you could do vocally or rhythmically as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we just wanted a very, very pyrotechnic guitar player. And we happened to find this guy finally after many years, you know. And he came just at the end of the recordings, I must say, but it added so much to it, you know. And I didn't mind to change even stuff that we had already recorded and do it all over again because it was so good. You know? But like I said, Element of Sex was a happier record. We were in a happier place, I guess. We were touring for the first time all over Europe. And so it was more a poppier album in a way. And the first one, Hell of a Hell, was just, you know, the beginning of everything. So it had all these different influences. It's not as focused as the other ones, but there are some songs that our fans love and we keep playing because they are our classics in a way.
Hmm. When it comes to mentioning that this record has a bit of a darker approach to it in terms of the lyricism behind it, I mean, I know some artists hate, oh, what does the lyrics in this song mean, or what's the meaning of this, but in terms of the lyrical aspect, what is the sort of is there like a specific concept that ties all these songs together?
No, actually, there's not a concept. Even though after we finished the recordings of the album, we kind of managed to create a story that connects through some of the songs. And but it's something we're doing visually for the movie we are producing because we just launched a Kickstarter. And we are producing this small movie about the history of the band because there's so much more behind our image. There's a story, this concept, and every character has its own history. And so this movie, it's pretty much about that stuff of the band. So some of the songs, we managed to connect them through this history about the New Witch, which is these characters that it's summoned on stage.
It's a character that keeps appearing in all the record.
Okay.
And it's a character that we summon on stage, and it's part of the show, you know.
Is it almost kind of like what Megadeth does with Vic Rattlehead, or what Disturbed kind of does with the guy in a way? This is sort of like the Sick and Beautiful mascot, if you will.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's just that she's the new witch, so she becomes the new witch during the show.
I'm still deciding if I want to remain the new witch forever.
Well, you explore like so many different mediums outside of music with this film that you're producing. Have you ever thought maybe could there be a Sick and Beautiful graphic novel like what a lot of like what Guar has done in a way?
Oh, we did it.
There's been already with Elemental Sex during the album cycle of Elemental Sex. We produced this comic book. It's a graphic novel. It's called Ground Zero, and it depicts one possible beginning of Sick and Beautiful, you know, and it was a lot of fun to do. It was much harder than we expected because we had to coordinate so many things at a time where we had also a lot of yes going on with the band and touring. You know, it was hard, but you know, we did this comic book, which is available on our website.
Oh, I love it when a band has multiple mediums that they explore and they're able to, you know, kind of show listeners what's Sick and Beautiful or what their band is in multiple ways. You mentioned that a story kind of developed with the making of Starstruck. So I know I'm asking this kind of maybe prematurely since this album isn't even out yet, but is this going to be a story that maybe Sick and Beautiful continues on in the future, like maybe almost like the beginning of a series of albums in a way?
Well, for sure. I think our story is always evolving. I mean, as our story as a band goes, also our concept behind it.
The legend behind the band that we create, which we did album keeps going and it takes different shapes. We're shooting the little movie right now with the help of the fans, and it's so hard to do that I would say I don't want to do it again because it's so much work. But I know that then we can never sit still, so there's gonna be something for sure after that.
I think that it was the idea from the beginning to create some kind of a 360 degrees project that goes through music and visuals and theatrical stuff. And so we're pretty much always exploring new ideas and ways to express our creativity.
And with the story that's conveyed in the album, is there ever a time where maybe also personal experiences could also influence the album lyrically, or do you consider Sick and Beautiful to be mainly just an escapism?
No, in this album, I think more than the previous ones, there are a bit more of our experience because we've been through a lot of stuff as a band. So there's more of what we've been through in the song.
Yes, but we always found a way to channel it in a sci-fi or crazy kind of way. You know, we're not just telling you the story as it happened, but we kind of make it into a more
fantasy.
Yeah.
We never get to personal.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you feel like by going as Herma and Big Daddy Ray like that, having like do you almost feel like in the music and when you're on stage, you're almost kind of like portraying characters as well, or is this just a direct extension of who you personally are?
Opposite. I think we are playing characters while we're not dressed as Sick and Beautiful, you know? Because when we started this thing, we actually had no idea how much powerful it was to us because our characters pretty much are portraying our real side, you know?
Our inner selves.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. We kind of become superheroes.
It gives us the freedom to do and be whatever you want, say whatever you want, because when you got a mask, people will listen to whatever you have to say because it's just a character saying. Maybe they'll take you seriously, maybe they won't, but they will listen, you know?
Yeah. I've always wondered whether it's a band like Slipknot or a band like Guar or a band, you know, like or Rob Zombie or something like that. We see them on stage and we know them when we see them on stage and when we listen to their music, that when you see them in person, you wonder, is that them actually in character, and the person we're seeing on stage is actually who they are?
It's interesting because I can tell that I'm so different when I'm without all of this. Actually, the whole band, we're all shy guys and girls. But this gives us like a superpower to do stuff that we always want to do. And I know it's kind of a child world.
Yeah, but I think there's balance between the two parts of the yin and yang. You know, there's light and there's dark, and they must be in equilibrium.
Yeah.
I don't know. We are probably still characters and also normal people, and I don't know. We are just exploring a part of us, you know. And sometimes
I never felt too normal though.
No, no, but I mean,
what is normal?
Shy part.
Of course.
Do you and when it comes to like who you portray, like when it comes to like the meaning of your music and everything, would Sick and Beautiful's music be open to interpretation, or are you trying to maybe engage the listener into the meaning and who you personally are as much as the actual music itself?
Actually, yes. I mean, the way that I write the lyrics, I try to stimulate the mind of the listener a little bit. And you can read it so many different ways if you want. You know, I think that's fun to write like that, to find the right words that go with the music, not just to rhyme and make it as easy as possible. That's not what I like. You know, I like to be engaging as much as I can.
When it comes to the influences that you do have, because again, I see rock, I see industrial, I see old school and new school. So I do want to like kind of nerd out on music. And what are some of your favorite bands that you do hold as an inspiration for what you do with Sick and Beautiful?
I think that I bring a lot of pop music in the band because I'm a big fan of Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, and Britney Spears, and all the pop singers. As long as industrial music and Marilyn Manson, Rammstein, more edgy stuff, and you're probably into classic.
I like everything. Honestly, I listen to everything, whatever strikes me. Of course, I like Kiss. I like Alice Cooper, Rob Zombie, like you mentioned, the old school stuff. But also there's so much new stuff that it's amazing, I believe. You know, actually the performers have become so good when compared to even just the technical part of the music. And I think the new kids today are just kicking ass, you know.
Yeah.
But still stuff as well. I have no limits when it comes to music. It's just as long as it's striking me somehow, then I will listen to it.
I think that that's probably we are all interested in theatrical acts.
Yes,
that's
if something is theatrical, I would for sure be more interested in listening to it.
We need a Sick and Beautiful Broadway musical.
I don't know about that.
I wouldn't go with that crazy idea because you know we are how do you say when you go crazy for something?
Yeah, if you think about it too much, then it's also too expensive.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And when it comes to like the making of the music, because you know you kind of led me perfectly into the next question though, is because when you're rehearsing and when you're songwriting and then you know as opposed to playing live, do you almost have to, is there almost like a choreography that you have to rehearse just as much as the actual music itself in a way? Are you practicing stage presence and crowd interaction as much as you're practicing the technical aspects of the song?
You have to a little bit, you know, you have to keeping in mind that you might be playing larger venues as well as small clubs. So it's not always the same what you do. Sometimes if you cannot carry a lot of props and stuff, you have to become the show yourself. You don't have to rely on those things. And actually that's also a lot of fun to do. There's a part of the show, I mean, that is total improvisation. So it just comes to the single members to what they know how to do, you know. But there are some parts that are choreographed, of course.
Do you feel like when you're oh
Even more than that, actually.
Yeah, some maybe yes, yes, yeah.
yeah, well, do you feel that when you are songwriting, when you are in the songwriting mode, that you almost have to put yourself in that same character as well? Because sometimes when you're in the studio, it's a little bit more of a controlled and sort of static environment. Do you almost feel like you have to be just as much in the mindset of when you're live performing as you are when you're in the vocal booth or in the studio?
Sometimes when we are producing songs, we have already in mind that that song could be related to some kind of a special effects or some kind of visual we would like to see or shoot, you know. And so the arrangement of the song came along with that idea in mind, and it goes in a total direction, in a total different direction. I mean,
but we don't but also we don't put limits on what we write, you know, especially being the third album. You know that you're gonna be playing material from three albums and it's such a short time. So you give yourself more leeway to write things and music that maybe you know it's not gonna make it to the show, but it's gonna be fun to listen to or interesting to listen to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's like so many different ways you have to look at a song. How is it going to sound through your headphones? How is it going to sound live? How is it going to sound when you rehearse? There's so many different like you have to test a song out in almost like 20 different settings just to see how it's going to be.
Yeah, but we try not to think about it too much while we write. Uh, then it comes to a point, you know, where you get to the where you get to the end of the production, where you have to think of all those little things and make choices at one point, you know. But while we write, we just go for it. We don't think about it too much. I mean, if something doesn't sound good, then we abandon it, or we might pick it up later and change it around. But we just don't put any limits to what we do it that way, you know.
Absolutely.
That in the album, there's a lot of different shades, and it's something we always did, of course, but this time maybe a little bit more edgy.
Yeah, definitely. So before we go, I want to thank you both so much for your time today and for such a great discussion. Is there just anything else with Sick and Beautiful that you would like to promote? Can you maybe bring Sick and Beautiful to the States one day? We would love to have you here.
We're trying so hard.
We're trying to do that as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think the only thing I can tell you and the people who will listen to this interview is spread the word and ask your local promoter and tell your friends about the band. It's all about word of mouth, you know.
Absolutely, that's still the most powerful thing. The word of mouth, the word goes around, and you never know.
Absolutely. Word of mouth is everything, as said by Pantera. Thank you both so much, everybody. We are here with Sick and Beautiful. Be sure to check out Starstruck. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We'll see you next time.